What's up, guys? Today's video, this 40k thoughts video, be giving my thoughts and a little bit of a comparison between Space Marine Intercessors and the Leagues of Votann Hearthkyn Warriors. As a little quick disclaimer, I'm not going to be going too in depth with the war gear options. I do make mention of it later in the next slide, but I'm not going to be going over the exact intricacies or nitty gritty details of it. So be warned about that. But without further ado, let's get on to the rest of the video. Going into my thoughts of the Hearthkyn Warriors and the Intercessors, we first have to go over their data sheet, their core abilities, and their stats, right? Their profiles. Now for the Hearthkyn Warriors, they have 5 inches of movement. Their toughness 5. They have 4-up save, 1 wound bodies, 7-up leadership, and 2 OC with a 6-up feel no pain. So overall, that's a pretty solid stat line for your main battle line infantry. In terms of points cost, they're 100 points for 1 unit of 10 models, and that's as big as you can run the model. You can't run them in 20-man units or largers. You can give them a 5-up invuln save if you have the Thane equipped with a Weave Field Crest, which there's no point to not using it. Their main core abilities are Luck Has, Need Keeps, and Toil Earns. That's their sticky objective ability. And then they have the Pan-Spectral Scanning, which allows models within the unit to reroll hit rolls of 1 for their ranged attacks. And then, of course, for war gear options, you can give them multiple different special weapons, like the high las auto rifle, high las rotary cannon, the rail cannon, and the Edikarn plasma beamer as some off the top examples. Or you can give 2 of them plasma knives for some fairly solid melee options. And when we look at the Intercessors for Space Marines, they have 6 inches of movement, their toughness 4, 3-up save, 2 wounds each for each model, leadership 6, OC 2. Now, they cost 80 points for a unit of 5, or 160 for a unit of 10. They can also sticky objective with objective secured, and they can add 2 attacks to their bolt rifles with target elimination, so long as they only target 1 enemy unit in that shooting phase. In terms of war gear options, Intercessors are less flexible with their ranged weapon options, because really their only options are for the Sergeant, who can have their bolt rifle with a grenade launcher, or they can have a plasma pistol. And then, of course, the Sergeant is the only model in the unit that can have different melee weapon options like a chain sword, power fist, power sword, or thunderhammer. Now, getting right into the thoughts and comparison, or the comparisons between these two. As I've used both units in my time playing Space Marines, and that's, Ultramarines, Black Templars, trying Blood Angels, I've used at least 1 unit of Intercessors. And then in the Leagues of Votann, I've used at least 1 unit of 10 that I may or may not split into 2 units of 5 with a Sagittar, which is another thing you can do, stretching out their value points-wise and also, per model. And the immediate comparisons I will make between them is the Votann with the Hearthkyn Warriors do have a bit more flexibility. They have more flexibility in terms of what they can do. They are technically cheaper than Intercessors, even if, let's say, you don't split them into 2 units of 5 of a Sagittar. 1 unit of 10 Hearthkyn Warriors, I would say, is on average harder to shift than a unit of 5 or even a unit of 10 Intercessors. That is in large part because of the Hearthkyn Warriors' higher toughness than the Space Marines and a 6-up feel no pain. Granted, it's a 6-up feel no pain, so the likelihood of you succeeding those 6-ups, or the 6-up feel no pains, is not very high, but still, if you roll a couple of 6s, and let's say all those attacks that went through to them are damage 1 attacks, well, hey, any past feel no pain is 1 that's one Hearthkyn that's not dying. So that's like, that's really good. The biggest downside, obviously, when you do this kind of comparison is, oh well, the Hearthkyn Warriors are slower. They have one less inch of movement, and of course they have one less wound, and then they have a worse save. Now there is the upside to this comparison for the kin, and that is Hearthkyn Warriors are 28mm bases compared to the Space Marine Intercessors 32, so they're smaller. Sure, their unit may take up a larger footprint, but in comparison to their Space Marine counterparts, they're actually a bit more compact and small. So you can actually get them into places that maybe the Space Marines wouldn't have normally been able to fit in or easily maneuver into, even with the 1 inch less movement. Now, moving on over to experience. Now, my experience of using intercessors in all of my games of playing 40k, whether that's playing, Black Templars, Blood Angels, or trying Blood Angels at least once, or learning Space Marines of, playing Ultramarines way back when I was first getting into it, I've always had at least one unit of standard intercessors, right? To stick you the home field objective and then maybe run around, do some backfield screening or secondary objectives if I get action objectives, right? So for Black Templars, it's my current Wrathful Procession list has one unit of intercessors. My Blood Angels list that I still really want to give a go, and I've only been able to do like solo games of it, of taking it and pitting it against one of my other armies, has one unit of assault or standard intercessors, and then in the past when I was playing standard Codex compliant Space Marines, in Gladius Task Force, I've always had one intercessor unit, and then of course army that uses the Hearthkyn Warriors is only the it's only the Leagues of Votann. In my Brainfast Oathband list, which is the same list as the current one I'm running, which is the Needguard list, both the Needguard Oathband armies are basically identical. There's really the only difference is just the detachment, but they're the only army that use the Hearthkyn Warriors. In terms of dealing with them, or what do I feel in terms of combating these units, I have no experience playing against the Votann. As I said in the previous video, talking about the Land Fortress and compared to the Land Raider, I have no experience dealing with the Leagues of Votann. I am the only person in my local group of friends that play the Votann, and I am soon to be not the only person who plays Space Marines. Now, on the conversation of Space Marines, I have played against Emperor's Children and some other armies that have very, very similar units to Space Marine Intercessors. Yes, I know in the case of Emperor's Children, Tormentors are not identical, not the same points cost, they don't have the same abilities, but it's the same general profile, right? Same general profile of the toughness, the save, the wounds, and then of course sticky objectives. And so with that in mind, with that being the closest analog for me, it's not been all that rough, whether that's I'm playing as Space Marines or I'm playing as, the Leagues of Votann, dealing with other intercessors or intercessor-like units isn't anything terribly difficult. And with that, in mind, both of these units are by no means like, yes, they're the most durable infantry you're ever going to have fielded and they're never going to go down. That's not like, unless you're really lucky with the dice rolls, the averages, the math will tell you that these guys, they're probably going to die to a decent little bit of shooting. Granted, they're not guardsmen, they're not chaos cultists, right? They're not going to die to a stiff breeze. Especially in the case of the Votann, they actually do have, the Hearthkyn Warriors do have quite a bit of, I would say, little barriers to stretch out their life, but 4-up save with a 5-up invuln and a 6-up feel no pain, the likelihood of them living is not the greatest, but hey, it's not non-zero. It's not like a guard, a unit of Cadians or chaos cultists where yeah, anything attacks them, and you can basically write them off as, okay, they are going to take casualties. With the Hearthkyn, it's at least like, okay, they may take casualties, and it's not the end of the world. Space Marines, they're probably not going to take casualties, or if they do, the proportion of attacks into them to take models off out of that unit may swing a bit more in your favor as the Space Marine player. But with that, guys, I want to thank you all for watching. I forgot to finish off the first bullet point question, but what kind of experiences have you had with using the Intercessors for Space Marines? Doesn't matter what army of Space Marines you play, whether that's Ultramarines, Blood Angels, Black Templars, or Dark Angels. Feel free to let me know. And of course, with the Leagues of Votann, what kind of experiences have you had with the Hearthkyn Warriors? Have you had good experiences using them in a unit of 10? Do you tend to split them into units of 5 with a Sagittar? What kind of experiences have you had? Do you attach characters to the either units? And if so, what characters do you attach? And for what reason? As always, let me know in the comments if you'd like to see more content like this in the future. Once again, want to thank you guys all for watching and listening. Hope you guys are having a great time wherever you may find yourself, whether you're at home, or you're at work, or at school, or you're on your way home from those. And if things aren't going well, I hope things can turn around and get better. But with that, guys, till the next time, I'll see you next time. And I apologize for this being a bit of a shorter one, but until then, peace.